So the city of Montreal has announced they're going to have to severely trim spending. They're facing a massive budget shortfall. Now, here's part of the reason why. You know, whenever you buy a new place to live, right? You buy a new home in the city of Montreal, you know that welcome tax, right? Property transfer tax, what is it? $5,000, $8,000, $12,000, depends on what type of property you buy. Well, there's been a big slowdown in real estate. So that massive tax you get when you buy a place, city's seeing less of that, right? So $40 million shortfall from real estate taxes alone. City's going to have to make up for that. Well, $120 million less in revenue than expected. What's going to happen with taxes and with services? Let's try and find out more. Sylvain Ouellet is City Councillor in Villeray-Saint-Michel-Parc-Extension. Hi, Sylvain. Welcome to the show.
Hi.
So Sylvain, this seems like there's no good news out of this. It seems like this is just really bad news for Montrealers. What do you want to tell us?
Well, it's a bad news, but it's not so big. Just to make some comparison, the total budget for 2023 for City of Montreal was almost $6.8 billion. So yes, it's a big numbers, but it's less than 2% in total compared to the budget. So 2%, it's not so much in percent, but what is really the differentiating factor between municipalities in Quebec compared to, for example, Quebec government or the federal government is municipalities are not allowed to make deficits. So we always need to make a balanced budget, and if during the year, the incomes or the expense, they have some deviation, we need to adjust before the next budget.
So what's going to get the cut, Sylvain? How are boroughs going to negotiate this? Because I've seen some boroughs looking forward and passing their budgets for next year, and it shows increased spending and the prospect that we're going to have increased taxes here. So how are we navigating all this, Sylvain? What are boroughs going to do?
Well, for the service directly to the citizen that is essentially provided by boroughs, it will have no difference. So, for example, snow removal, garbage, all the works that are done by blue collars, they'll have not only some problems right now. So what the city is doing, it's essentially put some brakes on new expenditure, or for example, there will be 400 actual vacant position that won't be filled up. So it's more a slowdown than a big cut that we have seen, that I already have seen in the past, for example under Trump administration or even Pierre Bourque.
Let me ask you about policing here for a second, right? Because one of the things I see is that overtime hours for the SPVM were increased $31.8 million. That's how much that figure is on overtime. And I look at that number and the fact that per capita, Montreal has more police officers than, our friends in Toronto and Calgary and Ottawa across the country. We just have more police officers per capita, yet we've got these expenses. Now, I'm certainly not on team defund police or any of that. I'm not on that. But I do question why we have so many overtime hours when we have per capita a large police staffing. So what do we do on the police front?
Yeah. Well, the first thing, it's difficult to compare between provinces because, for example, the SPVM is the only police force in Quebec that is level 5. SQ is level 6, and all other municipalities are, provided directly by the SQ or have a lower level of a police force. A lower level means you don't have inquiries or so it's more basic things that they've done. So Montreal have to provide those services. It's by law, and we don't necessarily receive a special funding for that. This is the first thing. The other thing is, yes, the overtime, it's worrying, but it's also it's due in part because we have some recruitment problem. It's already known. The new police chief is working really hard, and it will take some time. But this is one of the reasons, because we need to provide police force on the ground. So when you have less staff, you need to put more overtime on the actual one.
Alain de Souza from Ensemble Montreal has accused your administration, the Projet Montréal administration, of frivolous spending since Valérie Plante and your administration has been in power. What's your response to that, to accusations that you're of frivolous spending?
Well, it's quite funny from Ensemble Montréal because between themselves, Alain de Souza is the first one to say, Montreal need to cut some expenses. But I think it was this week or the previous week, one of their other mayors from Ensemble Montréal, Christine Black, said we should accelerate the pace of new infrastructure in Montreal North to reduce the inequality. That is a just cause. So yes. The expenditure that we've done, it's for good reason. In last term, I was vice president at the executive committee. I was responsible for water and streets, and one of the biggest increase in tax dollar was for to make some roadworks, because we have lots of decaying infrastructure since almost the Olympic Games that need to be repaired. It's unfortunate because no one wants to have their orange cones in front of them, and also it's costly, but we need to do that. So yes, we increased the expenditure, but it was for really good reason, especially for infrastructure.
Sylvain, we're with Sylvain Ouellet, City Councillor in Villeray-Saint-Michel-Parc-Extension. Sylvain, before I let you go, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you, since you're in Villeray-Saint-Michel-Parc-Extension, I have to ask you about the bike paths, and I know maybe Park Extension isn't necessarily your neck of the woods in the very large borough, but you've been at those city council meetings. You've seen the anger and the reports I see from the streets of Park Extension, where there's so many people that are very upset over how the new bike path there were handled. What's your reaction to the vocal protest, the people that really feel that your borough council is not listening to them?
Well, there was a feedback. What is really important to know, it's on Park X, not the whole borough, but only in Park X, one family on two don't have cars. Okay, so 50% of the population don't own a car. So, and those people are not the people who talk the most for different reasons, but we need to provide them with a safe option. And this is the key point. Yes, ParkX have already some bike lanes, but they were not secure. There was only paints on the floor. They was on their dooring zone, so it was quite dangerous. And ParkX, it's quite compact. So what we've done this year is to put the first secure bike path on North Shore, North South, and another one, a shorter one on East West, and that's it. We only made the core network. And yes, it's hard because the streets are narrow. So if you want to make some secure bike paths for half of the population who don't own a car, and even for those who have a car but want to take also bike paths sometimes, well, unfortunately, we need to remove some cars and parkings, and this was really difficult, and it was difficult in my own districts last year when I made the same thing, and even on Villeray Street, it was even narrower, and we had to remove cars on both sides for almost 3 or 4 kilometers long. So yes, it's quite difficult to touch parking, but at the end, if you want secure bike path, it's necessary.
Sylvain, we're going to have to leave it there. I want to thank you for your time. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
That's Sylvain Ouellet, councillor in Villeray-Saint-Michel-Parc-Extension.